In the heart of the state-of-the-art, at the dawn of the next stage in entertainment, you found no proscenium.
You have indeed found No Proscenium, the voice of everything immersive. I'm your host, Noah Nelson. This week, we're talking XR Safety Week with information researcher and founder of the XR Safety Initiative, Kavya Pearlman. She'll be on to tell us all about the event, which is taking place next week, and about the XR Safety Initiative. That should seem obvious. We also have the co-CEOs of Meow, Rubenstein and Carl Christensen. They'll be on to talk about the eventful year for the immersive entertainment company that has opened 2 attractions. That would be Omega Mart in Las Vegas and Convergence Station in Denver, both of which opened this year. Plus, the pick of the week is back. But before we get to all that, some breaking news out of the next stage, which is, of course, our Immersive Industry Summit and Mini Festival happening in Pasadena this January, just a little over a month away. We here at the Immersive Experience Institute, who put on the next stage and also put on No Proscenium and everything immersive, we are pleased to announce that Cages, the incredible musical in downtown Los Angeles' arts district that incorporates immersive installations, performance, and technology into an incredible spectacle of an evening, are joining the Mini Fest lineup. We'll be sending 30 badge holders to the Friday night performance of this awesome show as part of the overall festivities. I wrote the review for this for us a bit over a year ago, a bit over 2 years ago. It's been a minute. You know what's been going on. We're really excited. Cages was part of the original plan for the 2020 Here Fest, which is what this was going to be. And I'm just pleased as punch that we have Cages back in the mix and that we get to send so many folks over to check it out. 3-day on-site badges are still on sale. It's not too late, and the lineup of speakers has, frankly, gotten out of control. We've got the Royal Shakespeare Company, Meow, Walt Disney Imagineering, Department Studios, who are producing Arkham Asylum. We have artists like Risa Puno, who is working with Superblue, and Melinda Lau, who is coming in from Singapore. Our friends from Room Escape Artists are leading the immersive gaming track, and there's a special focus on XR that it will include behind-the-scenes look at onboard XR and Welcome to Respite. It's really shaping up to be a simply incredible event that we're doing at the Pasadena Playhouse that, honestly, I wish I could go to it and that I wasn't the one having to do all the logistics. I make a show that I would be like, oh my God, I'd love to do this. And then I don't get to do it. But you get to do it. Badges are on sale now. Go to experiencethenextstage.com and take your immersive career up to the next level. There might be some more stuff. In fact, there is some more stuff we're going to announce soon. Just so you know. We're not done yet. Oh no. We aren't done at all. That work that I was talking about. All right. And with that, here's NoPro's executive editor, Catherine Yu, with this week's headlines.
Hello, this is Catherine Yu, executive editor of No Proscenium, and here's what's in the immersive headlines for December 3rd. First off, in metaverse news, Samsung has announced their Dreamground project, a mixed reality playground concept combining physical sculptures with augmented technology, accessible using both Android and iOS devices. Visitors to Dreamgrounds can interact with the sculptures using their smartphones, collaborate with others in real time, and contribute their own art to any particular Dreamground, which will persist for up to 24 hours. Their first few locations are at Hollywood Park and SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles, as well as Samsung 837 in New York City. Philip Rosendale, founder of Second Life and a current co-founder of High Fidelity, had some thoughts she shared with Axios on Meta's vision for the metaverse. Given his past experience, Rosendale believes that the metaverse is not for everybody, and maybe not even meant to be for everybody. He says, quote, there still arises this weighty question of what is it that's going to cause normal people to be willing to go into these online spaces. I think we still haven't answered that question, end quote. Elsewhere, Dungeons & Dragons is possibly getting a themed restaurant and entertainment center in Wisconsin. The new venue, named Griffin and Gargoyle Tavern, is intended to be a 32,000 square foot immersive experience just north of downtown Lake Geneva. The owner aims to break ground this spring and to be operational by spring 2024, just in time for D&D's 50th anniversary. Speaking of themed entertainment, we've been getting more and more sneak peeks at the Star Wars Galactic Starcruiser experience opening this coming March at the Walt Disney World Resort. This time around, the public got a first look at a quote-unquote real retractable lightsaber taking place at Destination D23 last month. Do note that this elegant weapon of a more civilized age will only be handled by cast members and will not be available for purchase. So it looks like the only way to get up close and personal with this particular Jedi weapon is to hop on that Galactic Starcruiser. That said, Disney Parks, Experiences, and Products President Josh D'Amaro also gave the public a first look at the lightsaber training that will also be available as part of the Galactic Starcruiser experience. And these have been your Immersive Headlines.
If it sounds like Catherine is hiding out in a computer lab somewhere on a university campus, it's because she is busy doing her thesis work over at EUSC Games. We are always incredibly appreciative of how far above and beyond Catherine goes for everything we do here at NoPro and on the next stage. And honestly, when the day comes when she's done with her thesis and gets snatched up by some giant company, it'll be a massive loss for us. All right, on with the show. Joining us now is Kavya Pearlman, an information security researcher and founder of the XR Safety Initiative. Hello, Cavia.
Hi there. It's so great to be on this podcast, and I am so excited that I get to share all these insights that we are about to bring through XR Safety Week.
And that is what we're here to talk about, which is XR Safety Week, which is coming up just the week after this drops. Kavya, for those who don't know, what is XR Safety Week?
So, Noah, as you know, holidays are around the corner. And 2021 is the year of the largest number of individuals and organizations that will be getting into XR. XR, as we know, virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed reality. What we try to address is not just XR as a technology, but XR ecosystems. As most people know, Facebook is now Meta, and they are, they've expressed their desire to be the metaverse company. So when we talk about XR ecosystems, it's really also known as the metaverse, which is still in the making. But, we can see all these technological advancements happening with respect to new head-mounted goggles, the VR headsets being pushed out, some of the augmented reality glasses, Facebook's Ray-Ban Stories glasses. All these new gadgets are going to hit the market for the mass consumption. And so we sense this sort of urgency to create data, privacy, ethics, and safety-related awareness so that when consumers, when the mass, when the folks go ahead and purchase these devices or engage with XR or download more new apps, they're aware of what is really going on with respect to safety, so they don't put their rights at risk. They're aware of their human rights. They're aware of, if they're buying some of these gadgets for their children, what are the safety requirements there? So those kinds of things is, just really to create a moment of reflection. In fact, a week worth of effort, just so we could create a moment of reflection as to, hey, we're moving fast with these technologies. Let's celebrate this technology and all the people as well. But at the same time, let's go into XR or get into XR with safety at the forefront of our minds.
You're talking about taking kind of a collective moment to pause and take a look at these these issues that these new technologies bring up. And we've had 20 years of people living on the internet, as it were, and we've seen all of these issues arise that no one but maybe the researchers kind of predicted. But now everyone's kind of slightly familiar with the kinds of dangers online. So when it comes to safety in XR, I just want to see if we can kind of get our hands around this. Like, are we just talking about privacy? I know that the XR Safety Initiative has a privacy framework, but are we also talking about creators' rights, harassment, access, the kinds of relationships people have both on and with digital platforms, and how that's going to wind up existing in this new metaversal space?
Yeah, and it's a very good question. What is safety in XR? So, this is a deliberate attempt and a choice that we want to make sure that people understand that safety is a much broader term in the context of XR. So, safety is like, a sense of well being, a sense of feeling, am I safe with respect to this environment? While using this technology, and that safety, how do you get a sense of well-being? Would you feel safe if you're hacked? No. So cybersecurity sort of comes underneath that. Is we want to make sure that we anticipate what the bad guys, the malicious actors would do, so we can potentially create safeguards accordingly, or we can find cyber attacks before the bad guys do. So that's another thing that XRSI does. um, Safety also means sense of privacy, so your sense of autonomy, your human autonomy, your mental agency is safeguarded. And that's also within XR, when we start to talk about all kinds of sophisticated data that gets collected. At XRSI, we attributed it to be biometrically inferred data. So based on things that you do in the metaverse or in any of these XR technologies, so many inferences can be made about you. An example would be, and I'm taking just the internet technology example, but you type your with your typing pattern, the research suggests that you can actually establish how fast a person's multiple sclerosis is spreading. So these XR technologies, while people may think that, oh, this is just for game, what we try to do is expand the understanding that this scope of these XR technologies is much wider. It's way beyond gaming. It impacts a lot of different areas. We also talk, about diversity and inclusion, because that is also safety. So, would a particular segment of society feel included, feel safe while using these technologies if they are constantly being monitored, or their location is being monitored and shared with whatever providers, or these inferences, as I talked about earlier, that's one of your diseases progressing, let's say if that is shared with a health insurance provider, and then they deny you coverage. So there is these very much deeper issues that we investigate. But during the safety week, we really just want to bring forward this idea of sort of having sort of a investigative, or much more of a awareness mindset, a critical thinker mindset. That's the goal, is to cultivate that mindset that, hey, these technologies are great, these are sophisticated, and that's where safety as a broader term. It's not just about cybersecurity, not just about privacy. We do have a privacy and safety framework. That's why we added, based on our legal advisors' advice, we added privacy and safety framework as a note to it. And that's what has become, which previously was just a privacy framework. It's actually a privacy and safety framework in version 2.0, which is going to be concluded hopefully in 2022. So within that framework, as we made that shift, we also incorporated some of the tools that e-safety commissioner of Australia, which by the way is also another partner, community partner, and a supporter. So we're going to be demonstrating a lot of their tools that they have developed, and we've collaboratively worked with them, with the Parliament of Australia, to help them define some of the codes, align some of their tools. And we're still working with them to align the tools to XR, what that means in XR. And then, just having the commissioner speak. We have NHS, for example, is all about using these technologies for medical context to train people to perform operations, remote assisted surgeries, and whatnot. So all of this, when you use this technology to perform surgery, patient safety comes into play. Is the patient feeling safe? Is it safe to perform that surgery using this technology? Will the technology fail during that time? What about interoperability if some of these protocols interfere with each other? So while our scope of our work goes way, way deep, all the way to, even developing some of the augmented reality protocols, which we are currently doing that for public safety officers, police officers, etc. But that's what safety means. Safety means this very broader sense of well-being from all angles, whether it is privacy, autonomy, whether somebody is being ethical towards making these decisions, whether they should share your data or not, whether somebody is being ethical towards, disclosing that they have lost your data or not, or even creating, empathy training people are creating, but you could use the same exact thing to, weaponize that to create some other effects in some people's minds. So all of that builds up to be a more of a broader term safety, and that's what we want everyone to keep in the forefront. When you engage with these technologies, think about the sense of well-being, and that's why the whole safety effort.
It is a broad category, and you wind up having a lot of moving parts in here and things that people, I think, don't think about on the regular. And that's also feels like one of the ways we've wound up in the moment we have with just the Web 2.0 technologies being the way they are. A lot of people, even though they're using day to day, aren't thinking systematically about the choices that were made in building these infrastructures. You've been doing a lot of press lately because metaverse has injected itself into the mainstream. What do you think of all we've mentioned so far? What's maybe the biggest issue that we're collectively facing regarding XR safety that isn't really being talked about, or even gets maybe, smoothed over or just like overlooked as the press has been talking to you, or that the companies are kind of trying not to touch because it's too electric?
Right. And this is another very good and significant question that we ourselves at XRSI, we're trying to answer that. So one of the very big issue the industry is facing right now is this sense of accountability. As we noticed that right when Facebook files were being opened and talked about, um, Facebook labeled itself or announced itself to be Meta. And now there is this lack of understanding whether Facebook is the one who is creating metaverse, or, for common people who are not too familiar with what's coming in the future, there is this lack of understanding and a lack of accountability. So we have not yet addressed the issues of Web 2.0, and now we are bringing Web 3.0, which includes terms like, metaverse. What is the metaverse? Wallet. What is the DAO? Decentralized. What is decentralized economy? Or what are all these terms? Just like a baseline understanding.
Yeah, the idea that there's a mining cartel for Bitcoin that exists. It's like, well, wait, what? Like all this sort of stuff is
exactly.
I've been a tech reporter on and off for 20 years, and there are things in this that just mystify me, if for no other reason than I'm like, why are we doing it this way? Why are we recreating the parts of reality that don't work and codifying them into digital?
So I think those are two major challenges. One is creating awareness as to what is really happening. And there's a lot of silos where it's happening. So it's not that Facebook is building the metaverse. That's one. We need to absolutely be very, very clear. There are several organizations that are going to come together, and these many technologies like 5G, 6G, brain computer interfaces, artificial intelligence, XR, and decentralized ledger technologies and all these NFT virtual economies. Like, there's a plethora of technology that are going to converge to create this metaverse. So awareness of all of this, a baseline common understanding of all of this, is definitely a challenge. So we're trying to do our part, create some taxonomy stuff there and put together standards. But then the second piece is addressing them in terms of who is accountable for what. So once we get the understanding, okay, this is what we call these things. These are these technologies. These people hold that many pieces of the puzzle. Okay, now it is our role collectively to shift some of these responsibility upon each other so that we can now together address the piece of safety. So an example would be, I call XR safety is a shared responsibility, because Meta can give you controls that you must press the button or check the box or read the TOS or do this or do that. But if you don't engage with that particular control, then you're on your own and your rights would just go right out the window, where your default privacy policy might just be sharing all the possible data points that you will provide just by moving your hands or your camera or your pictures. Everything would go out the window to Meta. So it is important to know, when we engage with these technologies, whose responsibility is it to protect privacy, to have these controls in place. So of course it's Meta's responsibility to have these controls in place, but it is our responsibility as a consumer or as a person who's impacted by this to exercise those controls or to exercise our rights. So I say this thing, Web 1.0 was made by idealists, Web 2.0 was made by capitalists. So who is going to build the Web 3.0? And the answer is the visionaries, the creators, the developers. All of us are going to build the Web 3.0. And so now we pretty much did not address these ethics, privacy, and all these things proactively in 1.0. We didn't even do a good job in 2.0. When it comes to metaverse, I think we are possibly 2 to 3 years ahead, which is a great news. But at the same time, it is now our role collectively to get engaged and try to address this as we build this new iteration of the internet. And that's what I'm hopeful about, is that we have a little bit of time. We're going to put together lots of multidisciplinary experts, minds, and there are a lot of organizations that are coming together, even at, AWE Augmented World Expo that just happened in Santa Clara. I was there together with Meta, with a couple of other, even their lobbyist organizations, and I was sitting on the same panel with them just to demonstrate and inspire the community that we are all in this together addressing these things, and they know it. It's not that they're just going to go in this silo and create some demonic technology and unleash on us. No, we are pretty much like working hand in hand to try to understand, hey, what does bystander privacy mean? How should we give people rights so that they don't feel left out in terms of diversity and inclusion? So a lot going on. And then this week kind of brings that community that cares about all these things together to bring more people into that camp, so we can now start to dissipate all the information that we gather and try to bring together people with the knowledge, the wisdom, to try to give it back to the community. Be like, okay, you're a parent, you should think about this. You're a teacher, you should think about how you can teach better with using these technologies. So a little bit of celebration, but also just like, I think of it as inception of an idea that safety is important. So you just kind of induce that in their minds as they're engaging with the technology.
Well, I know you've got another call you've got to race off to, but this has been excellent. And it sounds like we've got a little bit of breathing room, like you said. I mean, we've got a couple of years here, maybe not the full 5 years that some people have suggested we have, but that this right now is a time when we could actually make an impact and get it done right. Kavya, again, if people want to take part in XR Safety Week, where should they go?
Sure. So I think it's worth mentioning that XR Safety Week is a week worth of celebration. It's taking place 6th of December to 10th of December. 6th of December will start out to be immersive storytelling and journalism. Then we'll focus on next day on child safety. December 8th on diversity and inclusion, December 9th on medical XR and immersive healthcare. And then finally, we will conclude the week December 10th, which also happens to be Human Rights Day. So we'll focus on privacy, safety, and digital human rights on that day. So if you want to get engaged, there are several different ways to be part of it. As an individual, you can simply tweet out support, you can send social media, you can encourage people, you can take part as a participant. As an organization, especially if you're a for-profit organization, you can sponsor some of the activities that XRSI is conducting, all the stuff that we are putting together. And if you're not a for-profit, if you're a nonprofit, or if you're just a community organization, just reach out via www.xrsafetyweek.org, and you can submit any events that you want to do. Or if you just want to spread the word, we would add you as a community partner. We'll add your logo, etc. And there are no charges for it. So you can, create a Zoom call or webinar or something. We'll list that out. As long as the focus is one of these 5 things that we've listed, we will support you. And you can take any of the media assets. You can change your pictures to XR Safety Week within your, like a Twitter header. There's like a lot of activities to get engaged, get involved. The main thing is go to www.xrsafetyweek.org and check out all the activities there and be part of it. All the details are available on the website.
Fantastic. Kavya Pearlman, thank you so much for being on the show, and I hope to see a lot of folks participating and getting their icon badges on and letting the word ring out about XR Safety Week this coming week.
Hi, this is Patrick McLean, the Chicago curator with No Proscenium. I'm here to introduce this week's Pick of the Week. Every week we meet in Discord for a review crew to talk about what we've seen or experienced recently. You can hear that in this podcast feed right before this one. It's a partner to our review rundown on the site and where we select the Pick of the Week. This week, the pick we have is
Arcane from Secret Cinema, based on the Netflix series from Riot Games.
And no need to, I'll introduce you, but I'm pretty sure people know at this point that you
me.
are.
I'm Noah Nelson. It's me. Come on. You heard my voice earlier.
And so, let's just get right into it. Why is this the pick of the week?
Yeah. So look, this is, not only is this Secret Cinema's United States debut, with a full Secret Cinema style show, and also the most gamified show they've ever done, according to them. This is also a pretty amazing realization of what is the #1 Netflix television series in the world right now, or at least a couple of weeks ago, which is this beautiful animated series Arcane, which is based on the League of Legends game. You don't need to know anything about the game to understand the animated series. I do recommend, if you're in Los Angeles and you want to see, what is one of the most elaborate and polished immersive activation / shows we've had in quite some time, that you at least watch the first episode of the series, maybe the first 3 episodes, because that's going to tell you 2 things. One, it's going to tell you if you like the characters and you like the world, which means go ahead and buy that ticket if you also like immersive. Or if you don't like the characters and don't like the world, you can skip this one, because this one is very much a realization of those characters and this world. And that is an impressive feat in and of itself.
And what makes actually going to this experience like the pick of the week, in the sense that it sounds like this is a really well built out, well thought out concept, and Secret Cinema, their, resume speaks for itself to a certain degree, but like, what did you love doing in this experience?
So my favorite thing in any immersive is getting to just play with actors, fully in character, inhabiting the roles that they are inhabiting, with responding to their character motivations, riffing off that, and kind of getting into trouble based off of character motivations. And I got to do that for 2 hours straight. And it's just a kid in a candy store. Now, I was on what's known as the VIP track because they singled us as press. So that's the $140 versus the $70 version. But there's a whole part of this show that I missed, which is the other crazy thing, is that there is escape rooms embedded into this. There's a metagame going on where you're trying to solve puzzles to unlock this MacGuffin that then you get to like hoard for various factions, and that leads you to interacting with different characters. They've just built this machine for these encounters, approaching it as you would an open world video game. And this melding of theater and games and really cool aesthetics. There's a dance break in the middle of it. It's kind of everything I want one of these things to be. And I wound up really liking the animated series. Like, I didn't expect that. I watched the first episode because I knew I was going to go to the show, and I fell in love with it. And I just wish that every big story world that I love, like Star Wars and Batman, would get to have, oh wait, they are. Okay, so like life's pretty good if you're Noah Nelson, and from that point of view anyway. So yeah, it's just getting to see that it can be done with something that I didn't have an emotional attachment to until 2 days before, really gives me hope for the genre as a whole.
Cool. Well, that, sounds like a really amazing time. I know you wrote a capsule review, which is featured in a previous review rundown, which is at noproscenium.com. And if people are kind of really interested about this experience and want to learn more, you can, of course, just go one spot back in your podcast feed to listen to this week's review crew at your leisure.
Joining us now are Ali Rubenstein, co-CEO and Chief Creative Officer, and Carl Christensen, Chief Financial Officer and co-CEO of a little company you may have heard of, Meow Wolf. Hello, Ali and Carl.
Hi, Noah.
So, nothing new with you guys. No big news in the past year, so I don't really know.
Yeah, it's been pretty boring around here.
Yeah, it's been intense for y'all. 2 attractions opening in the past, 12, 15 months? I've lost, what is time?
9 months.
9 months, yeah.
9 months.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
9 months. Oh my goodness, it was just 9 months? It feels... No, you're right. Yeah, of course you're right. You would know. My God, it's only been 9 months. Where does life go? So now that we've luckily established it, 9 months, 2 attractions, Vegas and Denver, both delivered in the middle of what is definitely the weirdest time of my life and probably your lives too. How is it going? How does it feel to have the attractions open now?
It's a huge relief, of course, because we didn't know for sure until we did it. Certainly in Vegas, we weren't 100% sure we were going to be able to pull it off. But we did. And huge relief. It's been a huge, huge success. We've been selling out constantly in Vegas and in Denver now, 6 months after, 6-7 months post Vegas. And I'd say the biggest feeling for me is just relief that we actually got it. We got it open. Got the booth open.
I'd echo what Ali shared. I think there's, back in 2020, early 2020, when things were starting to hit, we certainly had some challenges, but there's this all of a sudden great uncertainty around what will this industry face and what will we really ultimately experience. And so certainly we had a lot of those questions ourselves, and what did this mean to our business? And so being able to now open these exhibitions and see the crowds coming in and see the joy that is still on their face, maybe sometimes through a mask. It's so great to be able to see customers come in, fans come in, and deliver this experience again.
I have to imagine that the expectation of what throughput was going to be like. So you mentioned you're selling through, but is that the sell through that would have been happening pre-pandemic, or is it like a pandemic adjusted, or is it just full to the gates, like all speed ahead?
Well, in Vegas, I mean, first off, we were lucky in that we were opening in Vegas, right? That was the one city last in February that even had a shot at opening something like this, right? The rules were a little bit more relaxed there than in some other cities at that time, right? And when we first opened there, and we also, by the way, opened a month later reopened in Santa Fe, we in both locations opened at what we considered to be a pandemic level that was a little bit lighter to allow for social distancing. But we very quickly, as the number of cases fell, and we were very confident in our levels of safety, rose to what our expectations were pre-pandemic, and we're full on through the gates now. We're full
Wow.
on.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. For a little while, we were at what we would call pandemic levels, but now we're full throttle.
The folks you're getting, are they very different demographics between Vegas and Denver? I think one of the things I haven't gotten a chance to go out to Denver yet. When I went to Vegas, one thing I was really impressed by was how many families were coming through, because it was like the middle of the day when I was there on like a Tuesday or something like that. And it wasn't necessarily, it was a crowd that was similar to what I had experienced at the House of Eternal Return. And I don't tend to think of Vegas as like a family destination joint, like city at all. So I was really is this? And it was super multicultural. Like I felt like I was walking through like a mall in the Bay Area. So like back in the 90s. And I was really just like, who are these folks? Like, are they tourists? Are they Vegas locals? Like, what's the makeup of folks who are coming to the new spots?
You want to take that, Allie?
I would. Well, I think one thing the thing that is unique about one of the many things that's unique about our exhibitions is that they do appeal to a wide demographic, right? So someplace like Vegas is interesting in that you're going to get a very high percentage of tourists in the late afternoon and evenings and nighttime, certainly. And of course, that's generally going to be a more adult crowd. But during the day, we intended to, and we are appealing to local audiences. There's not a lot for local families to do in Vegas. And I think we really hit on a special note in providing a place where kids and parents and grandparents, families together, can go and enjoy. And that's definitely playing out in Vegas, in all of our locations, but especially in Vegas, in a daytime attendance versus a nighttime attendance, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it was readily apparent to me that there was something different from what I was expecting in terms of who the makeup was, because of certainly Area 15's position itself as like, cool, hip, rave, party spot,
Totally.
neat, black lights, Burning Man, like all that vibe. And I was going through and I was like, there's like 4 generations of family like here.
Totally. But I think that speaks to the brand expectation too, right? Because Santa Fe is distinctly is family oriented in
Oh
many
yeah.
ways, right? And generationally oriented, right? So news travels, a little bit, and it was important to us to be open during the day in Vegas and relatively early in the day for Vegas to allow for school groups and parents and children to have a place to go, and it's working.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I just add too, is it's great to see, even during a pandemic state, some of the out of state versus local mix. We see in Las Vegas more than Denver, a higher out of state, but we still see a great amount of the overall volume coming from out of state as well. And people are traveling, they are wanting to experience things, and we are fortunate to be able to say we've seen a visitor from every state in the United States.
Oh wow.
Yep, every single one. Every single one. For a while, a long while, North Dakota was a holdout, but we've had a visitor from North Dakota. Just saying.
Well, they got there sooner or later. It wouldn't have been North Dakota that I would have expected to be like the last to the line. I don't know why.
I don't know. It just was.
I was expecting Alaska or Hawaii, but there you go. And honestly, like in a different era, like if pandemic had never happened, like I would like it wouldn't be all that impressive. But like, of course, like the vibe is strong, and I think that it's funny because like sort of the legend of Meow Wolf, has been growing steadily. The first time I became aware of the company was circa 2015 when there was the Kickstarter for the House of Eternal Return, and they were explaining what it was. It was like, well, it's gonna be this thing. We've got a bowling alley, and like there's a music venue inside, and like there's gonna be art everywhere. Kid Koala's gonna come play at the open, and Amanda Palmer's gonna play. And I was like, well, what is this? Weed Santa Fe, really? Like, like George R. R. Martin's our landlord. It was like, huh? Who are these people? And then to see just like the kind of the explosion of growth. I got a chance a couple of years back to like visit Caterpillar and see.
For those cool.
So for those who don't know, that's like the fabrication headquarters, which is called Caterpillar because it's a former Caterpillar factory, and I don't mean the bugs, I mean the big, industrial thing. So this huge
Tractors
industrial, tractor factory that was turned into an art factory. But like that scrappy company of like 300 art kids in Santa Fe is now being run by folks from the themed entertainment industry who like worked for like the biggest of the big. So how does the company sort of conceive of itself right now? Because from the outside looking in, like it's a little. I can't make the pieces all fit together in my head anymore.
Well, you're not alone.
Okay.
In that. I mean, it's interesting. People ask me and Carl, both of us, a lot about this. I'm always getting asked, like, why did you want to come to Meow Wolf, and what are you doing there? And are you bringing Disney, and are you bringing Disney sensibilities and Disney processes? And, I'm always saying, if I wanted to make another Disney in Santa Fe, I wouldn't have. I mean, that was never my mission, right? I was never interested in turning Meow Wolf into another Disney, or even necessarily bringing this sort of level of, I'd say, business associated with what it is that we do creatively from Disney. Now, to be fair, we have had to bring in some more sort of standard industry practices, just because now we're a big company that is building big exhibitions in cities with real inspectors and real architectural integration and all of those things. Not to say that Santa Fe wasn't, but it was a very different time, a very different era. And now, we're going into brand new cities that don't know us, cities that don't understand what it means to integrate a highly themed animated figure. They don't know what that means. So, we have had to bring some of what it is that we did at our larger companies, for Carl from a business perspective, and for me from building themed entertainment. But decidedly incorporating that while maintaining the heart, the soul, the history, the meaning of what it is to be a part of Meow Wolf the artist, as well as Meow Wolf the company.
Well, for you, what is that meaning? What is the heart of the art of Meow?
You know, for me, that means, you know, we talk a lot about, you know, our art making as a business, but art making is what is so core to who we are and what differentiates us creatively and experientially from anybody else who's doing peripherally what we do. And there's an explosion, right, of immersive experiential entertainment out there, and there's a lot of great stuff happening out there, out in the world, and I applaud it because it's awesome. There should be, like, everybody get out there and make awesome immersive experiences. There's lots of space to do it, lots of people who want to see it. What differentiates us and what really turns me on about participating in it and helping to support and lead it is that we are always representing the hand of the artist, the art making. We are generally not going out and having people manufacture stuff for us from drawings. We've got a core team of artists that we engage here in Santa Fe. And whenever we go into another city, we bring in artists from that community, and they all become a part of the making of that exhibition. And so everything we're making, every hand that touches that art is what you see in that exhibition. And that's what gets me going. Like, we are looking at the brushstroke. And that brushstroke, if you're an artist, is important.
Yeah.
Carl, from a
in a nutshell.
Yeah. Carl, from the standpoint of a CFO and sort of what the market would expect, how does on the financial side and like investors and backers and all that sort of stuff view that part of the mission?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's who we are. They and it was, you know, very careful consideration of potential financial partners. As we started to go through those conversations, we were somewhat selective of who we were having conversations with, just knowing that we needed to have partners that believed exactly what Allie just shared with you. And so, you know, that was a very important, just getting off on the right step together, making sure that we were aligned was important. But I think our investors and our financial partners, our vendors, our professional partners of all kind find confidence in who we are because of, and what we're doing, and that statement because of the results and the experience. And you've seen it. You've walked through, Noah, and you just shared some of the experience you had where families are coming together, their experiencing things together. And, you know, like Allie said, there's a lot of beautiful, amazing, wonderful immersive experiences and location-based experiences, but it is truly unique in the way that we can bring multiple generations together and touch so many different lives with some of the experiences that we provide. So the investors see that and they get behind it. They understand it. And, you know, it's to kind of go back to earlier, you asked a little bit of how we've grown from this Kickstart kind of chaotic origin to continue to build and support what Allie just suggested. And there is this small influence of business and operations and process and procedure. But ultimately, all of that, we try, and we're not always perfect in this, but we try to keep that in behind the scenes, right? Because we really do want the artist hand and the creative, and I'll use the word chaos, but I mean it in a very positive way, that creative, chaotic process to take place. And so as we've evolved in a very significant way over the many years, a lot of it is trying to find the balance. We're still trying to figure that out. but it is to ultimately support all that Ali just shared, to really emphasize and put out there the touch of the artist's hand.
But I do want to plug for just a second, Carl. I mean, I could not ask for a better partner on the business and financial side who understands and is sensitive to the needs of creative and the need to give artists their space. And we've been really lucky that somehow we got partnered together in this because it was sort of random, but it worked, and it worked brilliantly because Carl cares so passionately about what we're doing here creatively.
Having Vegas and Denver land the way they have, used the word relief earlier. I know that it's to some degree a time of rest after having accomplished two big projects, and Denver in particular being a moonshot since that was from poured concrete all up. Has this given you all the resolve to go even bigger, or what's on the horizon? Like, is the creative juice still stirring, or are these 3 attractions right now this playpen that can kind of refined?
Well, we are not resting. I will say that. Right. We are definitely not resting. We are going to keep moving forward. We have exhibitions in the pipeline that we'll be announcing relatively soon. And we're going to keep opening exhibitions. We are definitely not sitting back and waiting to see how Denver and Vegas performs, or we're not even waiting to learn any major lessons. We're going to just keep going because we want to keep going and we need to keep creating. So there is more to come for sure in the very near future.
All right. Well, Carl and Ali, I want to thank you both for swinging in on the show this week, and we'll be watching. So it's been a pleasure to talk to you.
You too. Thanks, Noah.
Thanks for your support, Noah.
And that's the show for this week. Want to thank Cavia and Ali and Carl. Also want to thank Patrick and Catherine for being in the mix. You know that we run this like it's a charity. And by this time next year, we will be like a real charity. Well, I hope. It can take a while for the IRS to do all that sort of thing. But we are reconditioning ourselves into a proper 501c3. We have a fiscal sponsor this year, and that's going to take us through that process. Those are the good folks at Producer Hub. And as we transition over to that form, we have some direct donation links now for those who don't want to hop on the Patreon. But let me tell you, the Patreon, which is how we've been running this all along, is my everything. It's how I pay my rent. I am not an eccentric millionaire, as I like to say on the show. So I want to thank the folks who've hopped on this week. We've had some churn. One of the sustaining backers had to cycle out. They're still a backer, but they're not in the high level. A bunch of folks did come in. Some folks committed for a year, so that's kept us from losing any ground for this month, which is really good at the end of the year. It is definitely a nerve-wracking way to run things, but I want to thank Agent M83, Nathan Keys, Arthur Gilliard, Naomi Smythe, Liam Carey, Brady Walker, and Mariko Borogov, all for jumping in this week. Gavin Black upped his pledge. Thank you. You took what was dark and depressing week and made it, oh, hey, we can do this. We've also been hard at work on, establishing some structural institutional support. We're going to be able to announce a couple of sponsors for the next stage pretty soon. Ink is drying, getting everything kind of together. After we finish doing the next stage, we will be moving into a phase of really focusing on building the Institute, and trying to take some of the pressure off the sort of constant ask. So if you are part of a company and you want to support the work and want to help us grow the work we do here in the podcast, with the next stage, what we're doing with everything immersive, please contact us. We're building it out. We're building out that infrastructure, and we really do need your support. We believe in the future of immersive and experiential arts and entertainment, and we believe that there needs to be a home and a hub for focusing on the art and culture side of things. And that's the work we try and do. I do thank everyone. Patreon.com/NoProscenium is how to keep us going until we're at that happy day when we're just, cashing Jeff Bezos checks or whatever that turns into. And we do need the support. We are far off pace from hitting 400 backers at the end of the year. Right now, I would just like us to hit 350. I believe we're at 329 right now. So we still got like 21 to go. So if you can, I know a lot of you give already, just help us spread the word. That's the number one thing. The more you spread the word, if there's something you hear that you like, if there's an interview that was interesting, if there's an article, a review that was helpful to you, please share. It's the number one thing you could do. We don't spend money on Instagram ads and Facebook ads because the bang for buck on that stuff is really bad. People sharing the content is how we get the word out. Simple as that. I don't have $1,000 to hand to Microsoft to run a LinkedIn ad, which is what they literally ask for. They're like, we'll give you $1,000 if you spend $1,000 on advertising. It's like, if I had $1,000, I'd be using it for something else. So probably putting on a show for everybody because that's just who I am. All right. Again, patreon.com/NoProscenium. Thank you to everyone who jumped in this week. Also want to thank our sustaining backers as the team stands. They are Ari Hurston, Brittany, Deborah Robinson, Elaine, Jay Bushman, Jerome Joseph Gentes, David Bassek, Lonnie Hanson, Mark Baltazar, Samuel Mustry, Sidney Guillory, and Jan Budman. Thank you all. Seriously, thank you all. We're working on the next stage. We've got one more normal episode, although I've recorded all the interviews and they're all long. So we've got like a 90-minute episode coming up next week. That's just the nature of the beast. And then we've got our end of the year stuff. So there should be episodes all the way through the end of the year. There'll just be no traditional non-traditional end of the year episodes for us. We will take a bye week during the next stage. So we won't have an episode going out that week, but we will return with a little something the week afterwards. And then we're going right into like Sundance coverage and everything of that nature. So, it really doesn't stop. It just doesn't. But we do it for you. And you keep us going. And it's a symbiotic relationship. There you go. All right. I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to get this loaded up because it's like 12:22 on Friday and running behind schedule. What else is new? The associate producer for No Proscenium, the podcast, is Parker Sella. Music for this podcast is by Chris Porter of the Speakeasy Society. Special thanks to Siobhan O'Loughlin for voicing our intro. Catherine Yu does our headlines and is the executive editor of No Proscenium and the No Pro podcast. Well, you know how it goes. I produce and edit this thing in butcher language. So that's me. I'm Noah Nelson, in case you missed the thing at the start. Don't worry. I'm not concerned. What do I say at the end? Oh, right. Actually, you know what? Before. Hey, look. We've got a new variant out there. I'm definitely watching it really close. I know some people, I do not want to say these words, wondering like, oh, what are you going to do with the summit, with the thing? And it's, well, here's what we're going to do. We're going on with the summit until we're told that we're not allowed to, because that's sort of the world we find ourselves in now. There's no external help coming this time. It would appear. And honestly, it's from everything we can tell so far, and things can change, obviously. It does look like those who are fully vaccinated, and those who have had their booster, if they do wind up catching are getting what are called mild cases. Now, we also know that mild cases of coronavirus are like getting punched in the gut. So mild, it does not mean like it's the sniffles. It means like that's a crappy flu you've got right there when you're vaccinated. This is something I'm monitoring very closely. Obviously, I have been in this exact position before. I do not like reruns, so I'm very crabby this week because of that. That said, there's also a lot of work going on right now. And for everyone, my advice is just, if you're lucky enough to be in a major metropolitan area where vaccine mandates are required for these kind of indoor gatherings, great, follow the guidelines. If you are not so lucky as to be in a place that's requiring that, and bucking the trend is going to get you a lot of blowback, I empathize with you and maybe encourage you to think about paring down what you're doing during this wave. We're very lucky here in Los Angeles. Vaccine is required. That's what we're requiring for the next stage, that everyone is fully vaccinated and that we will be masking the entire time. Speakers will be unmasking will have the option to unmask while they're on stage and using a microphone. They will not be required to. So if someone wants to keep their mask on, they can. And we've been at this for a very long time now. So I feel like anything else is just like flogging various levels of living and unliving equines. But that said, I wish the best for all of us. This is not a place we wanted to be in again. And while I'm not worried, I am concerned that we're not done on this merry-go-round by a long shot. But we know that we have to find a way forward as a community, as an industry, and masks work pretty good. So use them. And for those who don't like them, tough. Thank you for wearing the mask. And until next time, I'll see you at the show.